topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners. It's Tuesday, and I'm here with you. Excited to be here with you. And I want to share a beautiful story with you all. One of our audience, Francesca, sent us a beautiful kindness story. So Francesca shared that her neighbors just had a young baby, and not knowing them, she wasn't sure, because in the good old days, I don't know about y'all, but our neighbors, we would take food if somebody had a baby. So what she did was she created a beautiful card with stickers on it. So for example, I'll do the grocery for you. I can make you a lunch or something. So she had put in 4 or 5 stickers and put in welcome baby, congratulations, and placed it on her neighbor's doorstep. And they were so thrilled. They reached out to her and took her up for a meal and a grocery. So think about it. Sometimes you may not see it, but you can be innovative and be supportive and have that kindness. So thank you to each and every one of you who have got a books. And I'm excited to share. I am planning to write a new book. It's in works. It's going to take some time, but excited to share about that. And I would highly recommend and encourage you to get our Entrepreneur's Garden and Expert to Influencer. They will impact your life because they're written from soul and heart and intended to make a difference in your life. And they will also make a difference in other people's lives because we take the profits and partially share with kiva.org. So thank you, listeners, for everything. And let's bring in our guest. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Divya. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. So Tiffany, share with us, do you recall a moment from your youth or childhood where there was an event or a person who left a positive mark on you?
Yes, absolutely. So I've obviously been thinking about this because I've been listening to your shows, and the person for me has to be my grandmother. I didn't know my paternal grandmother, but this is my maternal grandmother, and she always had a glint in her eye. She was very short, so she was practically my size. She obviously wasn't my size, but you know what I mean. And so she was almost like a child herself, like childlike energy. And she was always so fun. She was always up to mischief, and she was a great friend and ally to me when I was younger. And I felt like she believed I could do anything.
Oh, that is such a powerful story. And I love that you're saying that she was fun, because it has got nothing to do with fun. It's how you live your life. And when you bring that joy and when you bring that fun in your performance or in your day-to-day life, it makes for a better day. So tell us, as you grew up, and did you have any particular interest or anything specific like usually most kids do?
Yeah. My thing was horse riding. I
Mhm.
loved horse riding, and I loved animals generally. I was just completely mad about animals. I grew up on a farm, and surrounded by dogs and guinea pigs and cows, and I had a pony, which I absolutely loved. I used to brush that pony so much that its coat was gleaming, and then and so I was very proud.
Oh, that's perfect because, think about it. So many kids want a pony.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
And to grow up with animals, it grounds you in nature like nothing else will.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you mentioned that you like ghost writing. And as you grew up, did you continue your journey in writing?
Yes, so I kind of did and I kind of didn't. So I still love to see horses and, to kind of like go up and talk to them. Like if I see a police horse going along, I'll want to go and say hello. But really, like when I moved to town, away from the farm, which was really sad,
Mm,
there was just no possibility. So, they're still very much in my heart, but it's something that I had to leave in my childhood.
right. And where did your career take you?
So, I was, ever since I was little, I had this belief that anything is possible.
Hmm.
And um, when I was at school, I was really naughty. I was always like rebelling. I couldn't really understand what the point of school was. Like, it's like, why am I learning about this? How does it make any difference to me in my life? And I couldn't, that line wasn't there for me, that connection. So I often got called into the headmistress's office. And so that was going on. Now, when I left school, I suddenly realized that I had really limited my opportunities. And that was a real wake up call for me. I remember the moment I got my results, and I was like, I was on strike. I was on strike during my exams. That's why my results are so bad, but everyone just saw the bad results. So I suddenly realized that, oh my goodness, I have changed my life trajectory. And as a result, I couldn't get the job that I wanted to get. I was, there was like very much a ceiling above me, and it wasn't even glass, I don't think, because I kind of created it myself. So I've always believed that anything is possible. So I took ownership of what I'd created in my life and decided that I had to go back to school. And I put myself through school as a mature student and did all my exams again. This time I really paid attention. And then I went to university as a mature student. And that was me the first time I turned my life around.
Well, that is very powerful. And I sincerely believe that life begins when you are committed to it. And it sounds like you were committed to it. And sometimes some are just late bloomers, and it's okay, because what I've found is that when you live your life to the fullest, that's what counts.
Mm.
And I'm sure that, as when you were going through the college as an adult learner, did you feel any different than what would you have felt if you had gone a bit earlier?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was the first person at every lecture. I was in the library from 9 till as long as it was open. I mean, I really applied myself, and that paid off because I came out and I got a what's it called, in the back office of a bank. It's called the management training scheme. I got that in an investment bank. And so that was great because what I had decided, with this mindset of anything is possible,
Mm-hmm.
I had decided that I was going to get a job in the most difficult place that I could think of. And that was the derivatives trading floor of a bank. So that was my first step, when I got into that back office, and I got that management training scheme, and so I worked really hard, and after a couple of years I earned my spot on the trading floor. So I became one of 5 women on a trading floor of 200 men. So I had literally completely turned around my trajectory that I realized was going so badly wrong when I was younger.
Absolutely. And that is fascinating how you turned it around and you knew you were committed to it. So you talk about performance. Tell us, what are the 4 stages of that cultural mindset? Because you've talked about your individual performance, but now you are one woman in 200 men, one of the 5 women, as you mentioned. So what would be those 4 stages? And how does that performance curve look like?
Yeah. So the performance curve, which is a model that I and my team created recently, in the last 10 years, to help organizations think about the cultures they create. Because too often, cultures are just created unconsciously, but we can actually create them consciously. And that is going to make a complete difference, first of all, to the people working in the organization, but also on performance for the organization itself. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win. So when I was actually on the trading floor, I was in one of these 4 cultures, and I'll just take you through them. So first of all, the first culture, which is the lowest performing culture, that's an impulsive culture. So in this culture, you never know what's going to happen next. It's firefighting. And as I'm talking these through, you can think of places where you've worked before where, this has gone on. The one after that is dependent. And in this one, it's about hierarchy. And so what happens here is that leaders are the ones making the decisions, and the people who are working in that environment, they are thinking, there's no point me showing up with anything other than, just to do my 9-to-5 job, because I can't bring anything to this because everyone else has made the decisions for me. So it's very command and control. Now, the third one is me in the bank, and that's independent. And that is, I'm a staff performer. And so I thought I was brilliant, right? I was like, I had my targets, and I was going for my, multi-million pound turnover and all this kind of stuff. And the problem in that environment, so the leaders have given targets, and we're clear about what those targets are, and we're going for it. The problem is there's internal competition. So that's what happens there. Silos as well. And then the last, so it's not the highest performing environment, whereas banks might think they've got the highest performing environment, but they don't. The next one is interdependent. And this one here is the highest performing, and it's where collaboration comes in. So people are working towards the values and meaning and purpose of the organization. So it's not rules-based, it's values-based. And that's an interdependent culture. So really, it was in that third one when I was on the trading floor at the bank.
Yeah, no, definitely get that, because when you're collaborating, you're not only feeding off each other. And I've always found that, especially, and just I've been running a leadership cohort for a couple of years, and then we break them up into different groups, and when they come back, and then they're sharing, and it's the same exercise, and it's so much fun when they look at each other and that different perspectives are coming through. Oh, we didn't think about it like that. There is, in collaboration and in groupthink, there's so much power. So now for organizations, how can they encourage their culture to be in the 4th place?
Yes, exactly. Well, in the book that was released literally last month, so Coaching for Performance, we have put, it is like a how to do this, because what we want to do is get the knowledge out into coaches and also into the hands of leaders. So in terms of, so the first thing, so if we use the GROW model for this, because it was created by Sir John Whitmore, who passed away in 2017. And he is the person that I and David Brown co-founded Performance Consultants with. So
sorry for your loss.
Yes, well, he was an amazing man, and he lived an incredible life. I mean, there was not a corner of life that John left unturned. So he created the GROW model, which is the most used coaching model in the world. And he was actually also, whilst we're here, the first person to call coaching coaching. So he is the original pioneer of this industry. And he created the GROW model because he wanted a simple structure for leaders and coaches to be able to use when they're thinking about how to tackle something. Mm-hmm. And so organizations can use it as well. So the first part of it is G, so that's for goal. And that is, so the question is there that goes with this one is, if you had a magic wand, how would you love it to be? So it's getting completely out of the weeds, it's getting completely out of reality and going to the what's possible place. And that's where we need to create from as human beings and as organizations. And we need to think about how we'd love it to be, unconfined by limiting beliefs and, you know, all the noise that we have going on around us. The next one is reality. So where are we now? And this one here is where between the goal and reality, we get the gap analysis. So, you know, from a consulting point of view, one always thinks about, okay, so we need to understand where we want to go and where we are now to be able to get there, right? Then it's options. So this is the blue sky thinking. All options, you know, coming up with any options, no matter how crazy they sound. And when you've got to the end of those options, it's saying, okay, so what would my grandmother say, for example? You know, just to make sure that we do not think in our old mindset, because our old mindset just limits us. And then it's will. What will we do? And really, that right there, a route map can be built for organizations to move from where they are to where they want to go. Divya, I'm not hearing you.
Now what I'm saying is that the grow feedback model is so powerful. And so Sir John Whitmore coined it.
Yes. So the grow feedback model is something that so the thing is, so John has this extraordinary legacy, and what we're doing is we're building on his work. And so in the book, what we're doing is we're sharing how we're extending and we're building on. And the important thing about the grow feedback model, which we've created more recently, is that this is the thing that transforms an organization from any of those first three stages that we talked about to the fourth stage. So any of those first three stages, feedback will look like something like, Divya, I've got some feedback for you. And then your heart sinks, right? It's like, oh my goodness, I am going to be told, you know, something, this person's got something that's some judgment they've made. So that is the old style. What leaders need to move to now is, Divya, I'd love to explore how, you know, we're both experiencing this, for example. And so then what we can do is we can literally just share our perspectives. And sharing our perspectives means that I'm learning from what you're saying, as well as you're learning from what I'm saying, and we're aligning at the same time. So there's a complete win coming out of feedback, as opposed to in the old model, you know, someone's disempowered, someone's being told, and there's no learning going on, or limited.
Yeah, definitely. And you're absolutely right. It's such a powerful feedback model because you're talking about, like, you know, let's explore what could be our goal. And then you're diving into that, here's the situation. And now to reach this level, what options could we use? And out of these options, which one works for both of us, you know, find that compromise, and what will we do, or will we create an action plan? So definitely that goes through that. So tell us your experience with, I know that you mentioned that you have been a instigator of like, taking Sir John's work and like moving through the book. Tell us your experience with that, and what would you say is what portion of the book resonates the most with you?
So my experience of working on the book is that it feels like I'm still working with John very much. I worked with him until his death. I knew him from 2004, so it's over 15 years, and really, he wrote in such a fantastic way. So when I'm working on the book, I'm looking at what he's written, and I'm just looking to see that it's resonates with now, because what we need to do is we need to really reflect the huge shifts that have gone on, even since the last edition, which was 2017, pre-pandemic. I mean, who could imagine that was going to happen? And so it really feels like we're at a point in history where humanity needs to come up together collectively to rise to the challenges that we're seeing in the world today. And this is what we really wanted to come through the book. And, talking about things like Abraham Maslow, so his hierarchy of human needs, that's featured in the book for years. But what we've done is, through research, we've identified secondary needs that the global workforce now wants. So instead of having a job and getting esteem from, the fact that I've got a job and, I'm doing it well, now it's about having that job, doing it well, and it contributing positively to society or, business or whatever it is. So it's meaning and purpose, being interwoven, and that becoming increasingly important, especially as we look at the intergenerations that are coming through the workplace right now. The new generations coming through, they will not put up with the cultures that we've had, the old cultures that we've had before. They are looking for a place where they can thrive, where they can self-actualize. And I think that's really exciting call to action for the organizations of today, because if they don't actually do that, then they're going to lose out in so many ways.
Absolutely. You're right. And a lot of people will talk about millennials and Gen Z as if I think so every generation does that they know less than what we do. And yet the humanity continues. So you mentioned that specifically Gen Z are looking to thriving in the organizational cultures. So what could organizations do? Two things. To understanding the needs of post Great Resignation world, and then building that trust with Gen Z.
Yes, well, those are the two things they need to do. Absolutely. So you've answered the question. I mean, I would challenge, or rather call to action, every organization to think about the culture, take a proactive approach to culture. What sort of culture are they creating? I was talking to someone who worked in a bank, and they were on the board of a bank. And this person was saying, listen, we need to measure our culture. And everyone else on the board was saying, no, we don't want to do that. And this guy said, listen, it's going to be horrible, first of all, but we got to find out, because then we can get from where we are to where we want to go to. And I thought, isn't that just so interesting? Because it is always a bit of an eye-opener looking at culture and looking at, who we are. And it's like doing a leadership 360. The first time you get a leadership 360, you're like, oh, my goodness, is that me? But it helps raise awareness and responsibility, which is the crux of coaching after all. Because as I become aware of the different things that I need to do, then I can take a responsibility and choose to do them differently. And an organization has exactly the same responsibility for itself.
Absolutely. And that's very, very powerful. So as we talk about this, and we mentioned about how the companies need to open it up, that is one way. What are your thoughts about employees also? Because the way I feel it, it's a relationship and it's a two-way street. So yes, organizations are doing it. And in terms of employees, like especially like nowadays, I am hearing from so many of my clients who are looking to move on. They're finding that they don't have the upper hand like they used to post great resignation. It was an employee's market. Now it's kind of like shifted back to the employer's market. So as they're going through all of these, what are a few things that Gen Z and millennials can keep in their mind?
Yes. I think that, well, one of the first things is about that, getting in your own driver's seat. So just making sure that we don't have a mindset of being a victim of something, because we're all playing a part in the thing, right? And so it's about, what part am I playing? How am I showing up that's enabling this? And also, like, what can I, what's the challenge here for me to learn and grow through? Because like Carl Jung would say, every challenge that comes into our life is an opportunity for us to learn and grow. And that's the perfect opportunity we need. So that's where I'd start. I would start with self-responsibility. And in the book, we have self-coaching questions, which will take you through the GROW model. There are 10 questions there that you can use to really think about, what is it? How would I love it to be? And I'll tell you something extraordinary. At some point, my husband was driving me around the twist, right? So I was, and I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, he's a complete nightmare. So as I was doing that, I thought, right, I've got to do what we all say, right? So I've got to self-coach myself. And so I did this using those 10 questions. And, I started off and, it was my goal. So what would I love? So I'd love to be with a partner who is this, 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 and this. And I did that. And I went through the whole exercise. And do you know something extraordinary? My husband turned into that man. So I believe that your job can turn into your dream job. And it is about our mindset and what we bring to the party.
Mm-hmm. And I really like how you pinpointed that let's take the responsibility for ourselves. That is so critical, because now we are just there like, organization needs to do this, my boss needs to do this, I need to have this, I need to do that, versus realizing that you can create that transition for yourself. That, okay, this is the job opportunity, culture is great, but how can you really thrive into it? What could you do for your boss? What could you do for your organization? What could you do for your teammates? Because when you're doing that, you're building that relationship, going back to the fourth tier in the performance levels that you shared. And when you have that camaraderie, when you know that, when other people know that you've got their back, then things will start happening on its own, because you had started out saying that with so many things going in the world. And the beauty about this generation is that they care about planet, and they want the purpose in, and they're ambitious and yet purposeful. So it's a beautiful combination, and adding that little dose of responsibility where they kind of take it could take them long ways. So tell us about the second piece. Or you mentioned about that there are 10 questions, of course. Just share 2 or 3 questions with our audience as to how could they use those questions and get started.
So the first questions will be about goal, and it's probably the most important part of it. So I'm just going to ask you some questions that are around this. And what it is that, as human beings and as organizations, we often start with the problem and we focus on the problem.
Yeah.
And guess what? The problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger until, So this is about getting out of that and going for goal. So first question, my absolute all-time favorite question is, if you had a magic wand, how would you love it to be?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first question. Second question. Once you'd achieved that, how would you feel?
Mm-hmm. And let's touch upon, before you share another question, is that if you had a magic wand, so what you're doing is you're removing the constraints. That, again, going back to what you said, is that we are so problem focused versus solution focused, because, oh, this is a problem, this is a problem. And it even kind of goes back, oh, it's cold, it's cold, it's hot, it's hot. Versus like, oh, it's nice that, I don't have to wear that heavy jacket if it's a warm day. Or if it's a cold day, like, oh, I can get to have a nice cup of hot tea, or like, that nice warm pasta, that bread. And I'm sure, like, some of the people who are on keto will not like it. Warm soup. So you can have your keto bread or something like that. So when you're focused on that, when you're removing the constraints, that creates that fertile ground for growth. And then the second, what you're doing is you're making that connection with emotions. All right, everything has happened.
Mm.
And emotional, as they say, that people buy emotionally first and then justify logically. So that makes perfect sense. And just share like one more question.
How will you know that you've achieved that goal?
Definitely, very powerful. How will you know? So then this way, what I'm understanding is that you're bringing clarity to people.
Crystal clear about the goal before you move on to the other levels. Because like you said, Divya, that being in that cocoon of possibility is the most important thing you can do for yourself. And I must say that every day I do set an intention for how I'd love the day to go. And I even say things like, at the end of the day, I will feel X, Y, and Z. And it's extraordinary because it really influences the day. And I'm just thinking of something you said a few minutes ago, which was about, once we take responsibility for things, then it's like things become easier and things find us more easily. And I just want to share a crazy example of, that happening in my life, because when I did leave the bank, so, I got to that place where I was, one of 5 women on the trading floor. And what I realized was that it was someone else's idea of success. And so I needed to go and find myself all over again. Now, if I'd had coaching, I believe I would have been able to be myself in that environment. But as I didn't have coaching, it was, a path I had to go on. And when I chose to go that path, I left my sports car, my salary, and all of that, and said goodbye to it, and had to go and, really come back to who I was. So after it took me about 4 years. I call it the abyss because I really had to rebuild myself, and it was very, very hard. At some point during that, my old boss, and so what had happened was I'd started working as a coach because I'd seen coaching. The first time I saw coaching, I thought, my goodness, it's the work of angels. I saw someone who came to be coached, who had all the worries of the world on their shoulders. And as they were coached in this demo by this coach, she literally took every worry off her shoulder and put them down on the ground. And when the coaching had finished after 15 minutes, this lady was standing in her full potential. And I thought, wow, how incredible. I want to learn to do that and do it for whole organizations. And that's what we're doing now, transforming the global workplace for the better through bringing all of these techniques into it.
That is very powerful.
So doing the work of angels, but the thing is that up front at the beginning, the work of angels did not pay. so, and so I was, I realized that I was down about £500 for my month. And I thought, where am I going to get this money from? So I thought, right, a friend of mine had said to me, Tiffany, can you please help me rent out my flat? And if you do, I'll give you £500. I was like, yes, fantastic. That's the first thing. Then I was thinking, right, what do I do? Because I need to advertise this. But to advertise it, I need to pay money. And I don't want to pay any money because I want to keep the money. So I was sitting in my living room at home, and I was literally working this out. And I knew what I wanted to do. And first thing that happened was my old boss called, and he said, do you want your job at the bank back? And I heard myself saying, no, thank you, because I knew that I was on my path. So I knew to stay on my path. The next thing that happened was the doorbell went, and I heard this voice saying, hello, I've come to see the flat. And I was really confused because I hadn't advertised any flat yet. And anyway, the flat was in a different place. And so I said, I don't know what I said, but I put the phone down, and then I was like, oh, they want to see the flat. So I ran downstairs because they were already walking to the right number. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry, I rang the wrong number. I'm looking to rent a flat. And I said, where are you looking? And she said, these two different areas. The flat I was going to rent was in the other area. I said, would you like to come and see this flat tomorrow? Yes, she would. And she took the flat. She took the flat. So I got my 500. And this is where I think that, when we step into our lives and we take responsibility for what we've done and created, and we try to help ourselves, I think that we get helped along the way.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just amazing how things show up in your lives, and it's completely unexpected. I wasn't expecting that. And then you bring gratitude in the mix, and gratitude is a perfect recipe for receiving, because when you're in gratitude, then everything looks good. And then when everything's looking good, even though things are going wrong, then it gets you to do into better mood and take better actions, make better decisions, and things start shifting. So thank you for sharing, Tiffany. Where can people find you? And tell us, where can they find your book, and if they want to connect with you?
Thank you. So our website, company website, is performanceconsultants.com. That's going along at the bottom at the moment. My LinkedIn is Tiffany Gaskell. I think I'm practically the only Tiffany Gaskell in the world. I think there are 7 of them, but so it's a very unusual name, but it's helpful on LinkedIn. And then the book is in all good bookstores and on Amazon. So please do dive into it, because we are sharing, our knowledge in service of what you're looking to happen in your life and work.
Absolutely. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
I don't think so, because my overall message is this one of taking responsibility for where you are, getting in your own driver's seat, and not being a victim. Create your life as you want it to be, and your work.
Well, thank you, Tiffany, for joining us. We enjoyed it, and we appreciate you sharing your knowledge. And we wish you all the best with the book. And thank you, audience, for joining us, because you are the life and blood of this show. Keep reaching out to us. Keep letting us know how can we serve and support you. And thank you, Juan, for making the show possible.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.